I fought back against my mother-in-law and made her cry like a baby. Sam and I had been married for 3 years when his mother started treating our front door like a polite suggestion. Diane had a key, the one we handed Sam's mom years ago for emergencies, and she decided every Tuesday counted as an emergency. The first time I came home to find her on our couch with her shoes off and a plate of our leftovers balanced on her knee, I nearly walked back out thinking I had the wrong house. Diane, I didn't know you were stopping by. I don't knock, sweetheart. We're family. This door might as well not have a lock where I'm concerned. She delivered it like a lesson I should already know by now. Over the next month, she let herself in whenever the mood struck. Our pantry got rearranged so every can faced her way. The couch got shoved a full foot to the left because the old spot offended her. One afternoon, I came out of the shower in a towel and found her parked in our hallway reading our mail. "You two really should recycle more," she said, frowning at the electric bill. I asked Sam to please say something. "Babe, that's just how my mom is. She means well. Pick your battles." So I picked the smallest battle on the shelf and asked Diane, as politely as a person can manage, if she might text before driving over. She looked at me the way you look at a stranger asking for your wallet. "Text? To see my own son? Don't be ridiculous. I changed that boy's diapers in a house I paid the mortgage on, and I will come and go as I please." Sam stood behind her and mouthed an apology at me, so I said okay. I really did say okay. Saying okay only turned the dial up. She began arriving with her 2 bridge friends and walking them through our bedroom while I worked from the next room. "This is where they keep the nice towels," I heard through the wall. When I stepped out, she introduced me like a piece of furniture. "This is Sam's wife. She does something with computers." The next week, she let herself in at 7 on a Saturday to start a roast because our oven ran bigger than hers, and looked wounded when I asked why there was raw meat in my kitchen before I had even found my shoes. Then came the coffee. I had a bag of beans I drove clear across town for. The one small thing that made a 6 in the morning alarm survivable. Coming down one morning, I found the bag in the trash and Diane at my counter brewing a pot of the watery stuff she preferred. "That fancy bag was stale and overpriced," she announced, pressing a mug I never asked for into my hands. "You'll thank me later." She had also tossed the leftovers I was saving for lunch and swapped our dish soap for her brand because mine smelled like a hospital. That was the morning the idea showed up, fully grown and oddly peaceful. Diane lived alone across town since the divorce, and Sam kept a key to her place for watering plants whenever she took her cruises. I slipped it off the hook on a Sunday. At 6 that evening, I let myself into her house, kicked my shoes off, and settled into her living room like I had paid the mortgage on it myself. Her good armchair became mine. When she came in from her weekly bridge game, her purse slid right off her shoulder. "What in the world are you doing inside my house?" "I don't knock," I said, putting my feet up on her ottoman. "We're family. This door might as well not have a lock where I'm concerned." On the following Sunday, I reorganized her pantry so every can faced me. The Sunday after that, I helped myself to the casserole in her fridge and mentioned kindly that it had come out a little dry. "You cannot just walk into my home and eat my food," she snapped. "Sure I can. You'll thank me later. I'm decluttering." I poured her expensive loose tea down the sink and left a box of cheap bags where it used to sit. "That stuff was stale and overpriced," I told her, pressing a cup she did not want into her hands. By the 4th Sunday, she had stopped leaving at 6 to avoid me, which only meant she got to sit in her own living room and watch me fix her bookshelf the right way. A week later, I brought 2 friends of mine and walked them through her bedroom while she stood frozen in her own hallway. "This is where she keeps the good linens," I told them. I stretched out for a nap on her made bed with my shoes still on the duvet, the same way she had once napped on our couch in her gardening clothes. When she protested, I gave her the warmest smile I owned. "Relax. We're family. You'll thank me later." Diane called Sam in a rage. "Your wife let herself in again and rearranged my entire hallway. She has completely lost it." Sam, bless him, kept his voice as sweet as syrup. "Mom, she's only being family. You're the one who taught her that doors don't mean anything between people who love each other. She really does listen to you." That answer landed somewhere Diane could not argue with, so she did the one thing she had sworn was ridiculous. She texted. The first one came on a Tuesday morning and I nearly dropped my phone reading it. "Texting as requested to inform you I will be visiting my son at 4 p.m. Please confirm the house is open to family." She signed it with her full name, first and last, like she was filing paperwork with the county. I read it 3 times, standing in the kitchen with my coffee, and I felt this rush go through me like I had just won something big. She was actually texting before coming over. I showed Sam, and he smiled and kissed the top of my head and said, "See? Progress." When Diane showed up for her visits, the real change kicked in. She did not touch the pantry. She did not rearrange the couch. She did not open the fridge or swap out my soap or toss anything in the trash. She sat on the couch with her purse on her lap like she was waiting in a doctor's office and she just talked. But the things she said were so sharp they could have cut glass. The first visit, she looked up at the ceiling for a long time and then said, "That stain has been there since May. I would never let that go in my home." I looked up and saw a tiny watermark from when the upstairs bathroom had a small leak months ago, something we had been meaning to paint over. She said it so calm, like she was making a friendly observation, but the message was clear. She was watching everything and finding it all lacking. Then dinner happened. I had made a casserole that afternoon, one I was actually proud of, and Sam served it while Diane sat at our table with her hands folded like she was grading us. She took one bite and turned to Sam with a big warm smile and said, "Sam, this casserole is wonderful. You've really learned to cook." Sam glanced at me. I put my fork down and said, "I made that, Diane. The whole thing." Sam did not even know what was in the oven until I pulled it out. She looked at me with the sweetest expression I have ever seen on a person who was being that rude on purpose and said, "Of course, dear. I'm sure you helped." She did this every visit. She complimented Sam on the bathroom I scrubbed every weekend. She praised the yard I mowed because Sam had allergies. Every time I corrected her, she gave me that same little smile and said some version of course, dear." It was like being erased in real time by someone who never raised her voice. That night, Sam told me he was proud of me for how I had been handling everything, then suggested I ease off the Sunday visits to Diane's place now that she was texting first. I told him I would stop. I figured I had made my point. 2 weeks went by, and they were the quietest 2 weeks of our entire marriage. Diane texted before each visit, showed up at the time she said, sat on the couch, made her little comments, and left. I could handle comments. Comments were just words and words I could let float past me. I started to relax. I stopped kept checking the front door every time I came home. For 2 whole weeks, I felt like the house was actually mine again. Then I came home on a Thursday afternoon and my key did not work. I stood on my own front porch turning my key in the lock and it just would not catch. I tried it again, slower, thinking maybe I was doing something wrong, and then the door opened from the inside. Diane stood in my entryway holding up a shiny new key, the way a game show host holds up a prize. The old lock was getting sticky, she said. All matter of fact, like this was the most normal thing in the world. I had the locksmith come while you two were at work. Here's your copy. She pressed a brand new key into my hand. A key to my own house, cut by a locksmith that my mother-in-law called to replace locks that my mother-in-law decided needed replacing, on a door that my mother-in-law had no business touching. I stood there holding that key and felt something cold move through me. She had not backed down. She had not learned a single thing from the texting or the Sunday visits or any of it. She had just gone quiet long enough for me to let my guard down, and then she walked right back over the line. Except this time she did not just walk through my door. She replaced the door. The second her car pulled away, I called Sam at work. She changed our locks, I said. His end went quiet. Not the kind of quiet where someone is thinking of what to say. The kind of quiet where someone just got hit and has not figured out where it landed yet. She changed our locks, he said, and his voice was different, lower. Yes. She called a locksmith while we were at work. She was inside our house with a new key when I got home. She handed me a copy like she was doing me a favor. I could hear him breathing. I waited. Then I said, call her, right now. Tell her this was not okay. He paused, and in that pause, I heard everything. Let me think about how to bring it up, he said. I did not yell. I did not argue. I just said okay, and hung up and stood in my kitchen looking down at the key in my hand. It was warm from my grip. Something changed in me right then. Not anger exactly, though there was plenty of that. More like a door closing inside my chest. The door that had been open to compromise and patience and waiting for Sam to figure it out. Diane had not retreated. She had regrouped. If Sam was going to sit at his desk and think about how to bring it up, then I was going to stop waiting and start handling this myself. I drove straight to the hardware store. I walked up to the counter and said I needed new locks for my front and back doors. The good ones. The kind you cannot pick with a credit card. He asked if I wanted an install scheduled for next week. I said no, I need them today, right now, this evening. I sat in my car in the parking lot and watched a tutorial on my phone for how to swap out a door lock. It was not that hard. That felt important somehow. The fact that changing a lock was a 15-minute job that Diane had turned into a power move. I got home and changed both locks myself, kneeling on the porch with a screwdriver and the instructions spread out on the welcome mat. My hands were steady the whole time. I finished before the sun went down. I put 2 new keys on my keychain and did not make a third copy. I did not text Diane. I did not call Sam. I sat on the couch and waited. Sam got home around 7. I heard his car in the driveway and then his key slide into the front lock and go nowhere. He tried it again. Then he knocked. I walked to the door and opened it from the inside and stood there looking at him on his own porch with a dead key still in his hand. We have new locks, I said. Your mom does not get one. He stood there for a second with his work bag on his shoulder. He did not yell. He did not even look mad. He looked like someone who had been waiting for something to happen. And now that it had, he did not know if he was relieved or scared. He came inside and set his bag down and sat at the kitchen table and rubbed his face with both hands. She's going to lose it, he said. His voice was flat, like he was reading the weather. I leaned against the counter. Good, I said. She should have lost it when she realized she was breaking into our home every week. He flinched at that. I saw it, this tiny pull at the corner of his mouth, but he did not argue. He sat there for a long minute, and then he nodded, slowly, like his head was heavy. That nod was more like surrender, like he was finally letting go of the idea that this could all be solved by everyone just being nice. I handed him his new key, and he put it on his ring without a word. The next day, I was working from home when my phone buzzed. Sam, Mom just tried to come over. She's calling me now, putting you on speaker. I heard the click, and then Diane's voice, loud and climbing. You locked your own mother out? After everything I've done? After I raised you in a house I paid for? She said raised and paid like they were weapons. Like those 2 words should end every argument forever. Sam's voice got soft the way it always did when Diane turned on the pressure. He started saying, Mom, maybe we can work something. And I could already hear where that sentence was going. It was going to a place where Diane got a key again, where I spent another month feeling like a tenant in my own home. I reached over and took the phone out of his hand. He looked at me like I had just pulled the pin on something. Diane, I said, keeping my voice even. You changed our locks without asking. We changed them back without asking. Now we're even. If you want to come over, you text, and we open the door. That's how it works. The line went so quiet I thought she had hung up. Then her voice came back, low and controlled, past anger into something else entirely. Sam, tell your wife that if she thinks she can keep me from my son, she has no idea who she's dealing with. The line went dead. Sam was staring at the phone on the counter like it was something dangerous. She's never gone quiet like that before, he said. That scares me more than the yelling. Diane yelling was normal. Diane threatening was Tuesday. But Diane going cold and ending a call like she was closing a file, that was new. That was something I had not seen in 3 years of marriage. And from the look on Sam's face, something he had not seen in 30 years of being her son. 5 days of silence followed. No texts, no calls, no car in the driveway, no passive observations about ceiling stains or casseroles. Sam did not bring her up and I did not either. The quiet should have felt like a win. I had wanted her to stop showing up without warning, and she had stopped showing up entirely. But it did not feel like peace. It felt like the air right before something breaks, when everything gets very still and very heavy, and you can feel in your chest that something is coming even if you cannot see it yet. I kept the new locks. I kept my keys close. I waited. I also started noticing things I had not noticed before. The small evidence that our house was entirely ours again. Nobody had touched the pantry in 3 weeks. The couch was still exactly where we left it. My dish soap was still there. These were minor things, and I was embarrassed by how much they registered, how deeply I had absorbed the constant low-level threat of everything being rearranged under me. On day 4, Sam left his phone on the counter and went to shower. I picked it up to check the time. The screen lit up with a notification. A new message in a thread with Diane. I should not have read it. I read it. The message at the top was from that morning, sent to Sam while I was making coffee in the next room. Just wait her out. You always handle her eventually. She'll get tired of fighting and things will go back to normal. Don't let her make this into something bigger than it is. Call me tonight. I stood in the kitchen and read it 3 times. She was not broken. She was not sitting alone in that quiet house regretting a single thing. She was running a play she had run before, one where Sam managed me back into line while she waited at a comfortable distance for everything to reset. The Sunday visits, the texting, all of it. She had moved a few inches to keep me from escalating further, but she had never intended to actually change. She was counting on Sam to handle me the way he apparently always had. I took a screenshot and set the phone back on the counter exactly where it had been. On day 5, Sam's phone rang during dinner. I watched his face do that thing it does when Diane calls, the tightening around his eyes like his body was already bracing before his brain caught up. He picked up and I heard Diane's voice on the other end. Not loud this time, not sharp, soft, almost small. Sam listened for about 30 seconds and then lowered the phone. She wants me to come over for dinner, he said. Just me. She said, I need my son right now. Just my son. I looked at him across the table and I already knew exactly what was coming because I had read it 4 days ago in her own words. She had spent 5 days in silence and now she was pulling the one card I could not match. Go, I said. He looked surprised, like he had been bracing for a fight and I had just opened the door. You sure? He asked. Go, Sam. She's your mom. Go have dinner. He grabbed his jacket and keys and hesitated at the front door for just a second, looking back at me, and then the door closed. I sat alone at the table and listened to his car pull out of the driveway. I told myself I was not going to sit there counting the minutes, and then I sat there counting the minutes. Sam came home just after 3 hours. I heard the new lock turn clean, heard the door open slowly. He came around the corner into the living room and I looked at him, and the word that came to mind was hollowed out. His face had that emptied look, like someone had reached in and scooped something out of the middle of him. He sat down on the couch and stared at the floor for a long time. She cried the whole time, he said, his voice flat and tired. He told me everything. Diane had sat him down at her kitchen table and cried from the moment he sat down until the moment he left. She told him she was losing him. She told him I was building a wall between them brick by brick, and every lock I changed was just another way of pushing her out of his life. She told him she sat alone in that house every night since the divorce, and the only thing that made her feel like she still had a family was being able to walk into our home and feel like some part of it was still hers. And then, Sam said, looking at his hands in his lap like he could not look at me, she told him, your wife is turning you against me. One day you'll wake up and I'll be gone and you'll wish you had let me in. I sat with that for a moment. Even after everything, hearing that she sat alone every night and felt like she was disappearing, that landed somewhere real in me. But it landed right next to the screenshot on my phone, and the two things sat side by side and did not cancel each other out. What did you say to her? I asked. I told her I loved her. I told her nobody was trying to cut her out. I waited for the part where he stood up for me. It did not come. I said nothing for a moment. Then I reached over to the side table, picked up my phone, opened the screenshot, and held it out to him. He took it and looked at the screen. He read it once fast and then again slower. His face changed. Not angry at me. Something older and harder than anger. The look of a person who has just realized they were a piece in someone else's game and is deciding whether they always knew it. He sat there for a long time with my phone in his hand. Then he set it down and picked up his own phone and called her. I heard one side of the call and it was enough. His voice was steady and flat in a way I had never heard him speak to his mother. I need you to hear me right now. She showed me your text. The one about waiting her out. About me handling her. A long pause. His jaw tightened. I understand you're upset. I understand you're lonely. But what you wrote is not how you talk about someone's wife. That is not how you talk about someone I love. Another pause. His shoulders dropped. Not from sadness, but from something closer to relief. The way a person's body drops when they finally say the thing they have been carrying. Nothing is changing. You text before you come over. Every single time. That is not up for discussion anymore. He hung up. He sat for a moment looking at the floor, then looked at me and said she had been sobbing by the end. Not the kind of crying from earlier that was designed to make him fold, but the kind that happens when someone finally hears something true and cannot run from it anymore. I thought about that. I also thought about the text. Both things were real, and neither one canceled the other out. The next morning, a text came to my phone, not Sam's. No full name at the bottom, no passive-aggressive caps, no filing paperwork with the county. Just 4 words. Is Thursday still okay? I wrote back. Thursday is fine. She showed up that Thursday without rearranging anything. She sat at the table and set a bag of the expensive coffee on the counter without saying a word. I brewed a pot and put 2 cups down, and we sat in the same kitchen where she had once thrown my things in the trash and told me I would thank her later. The next text came 4 days later. I read it, set my phone on the counter, and unlocked the front door.